Hi, I'm Chris Haigh and this is the Fiddle channel, and today I'm going to play Exactly Like You. Hello, Exactly Like You is a popular song from the 1930s and rapidly became a jazz standard. Was recorded in 1937 by Django Reinhardt, and it's this version that we're going to look at in some detail in this video. And incidentally, if you're enjoying my jazz violin videos, do please consider joining me on Patreon, because that's what keeps these videos coming. Okay, so first of all, I'm going to show you the written melody, which is a kind of a simplification of what you actually need, but it's always good to know what the basic melody is. So I'm going to play that, and this I'll do it straight away with the backing. Now, if you play it like that and you think it's job done, then I'm afraid you're in for a big disappointment, because that is just the very starting point. That's you've just got your foot across the starting line when you can do that. One thing that's wrong with it is there's a whole load of whole notes and almost nothing that's swinging. So you've got to split a lot of those notes into quavers in order to get some swing. So very simply, you can follow these notes very closely, but split them up into da-ba 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 and add a lot of syncopation. And little fills between one phrase and the next. And runs from one note to the next. And when you've got a little space, as you often do at the end of the line, then you can fill that with a little fill. Lots of slides. Break up those long notes, especially at the tip. I do a lot of these things, tiny notes at the tip, where all of the action is happening at the wrist, certainly not at the elbow. Any of the notes can be lengthened. Any of them can be anticipated. Or you can put a gap at the beginning before the note is supposed to start. And lots of articulation. And again, this articulation is all coming from the wrist. And notice how short these notes are. Not. And you can play some of it very soft. And some of it really hard. And the hard stuff comes at the tip, at the heel, and the soft stuff comes at the tip. So I'll do ones through staying close to the melody, but adding all of that kind of stuff. if you listen to the original Grappelli and Django version, Stefan plays the melody at the start, and as is very often the case with him, you get about 3 bars of the original melody, and then he's pretty well straight away into improvisation, and you're just getting a basic skeleton of the melody. So I'm going to show you, just as an example, the first 16 bars that he plays. And it'll give you an idea of how far you can drift even on the first time when you're playing the melody. So we start off with a note that comes after the bar line. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. So what have we got? Second line. That's a little chromatic thing. 3, 2, 2. That's a nice little phrase. And then we're sliding up from this G note up to the 4th finger on the middle of the E string. So we're going up an octave. That E flat is a flattened third, which is part of the major blues scale, which fits this tune nicely. I'm going to show you in a minute some particular licks that he uses during the solo, but let's just try this again, these 16 bars, and I'll do it with the backing. Dun, dun, dun. Now the question arises, is it worth learning the solo? And I would say it's worth learning the first 4 bars, simply because people that are familiar with this recording will recognise the opening of the solo. They won't remember the whole thing. They won't know that you're not doing the original solo if you don't. But it's worth doing the doing that, and that is a nice variation as well when you come onto the repeat. So I would do those, and then it's a question of picking out individual licks that you want to put into your solo. And one of his most common licks that occurs in this one, and almost always happens whenever he does a tune in C, is that E flat with the 4th finger, and it's not an E natural going to an E flat. It's sliding up to an E flat and then sliding the 4th finger down again. And the timing of that can be almost anywhere. So you can start the phrase almost whenever you like. And the same thing works really nicely up here. So that's an E, it's an E flat. And if you've not done it before, actually getting that in tune will be quite hard. So the 4th finger slides up, and then it's 3, 1, 3. I'm just going to play through the whole thing, and I'm going to keep on dropping that lick in over and over again, and you'll see how flexible it is. So you get the idea. Obviously, you wouldn't do that. You wouldn't play the same lick 24 times. But when you're practicing, you could. And the more times you do it, the better as you're practicing and learning. Another good lick which he uses is a long chromatic run. So the fingering, starting with the fourth finger, 3, 2, 2, 1, 1, open, 4, 3, 2, 2. And if you're not familiar with chromatic fingering, that's well worth practicing. That triplet is something that is there in order to get you to the right last note in the right place. And if you started later or earlier, you may or may not need something like that in there. And another lick which is very useful, a very characteristic lick, which is a pretty weird one if you think about it. It's a bit kind of Star Trek. If you think of your first and your fourth finger, 1, 4, 1, 4, and then you could do 1, 4, 1, 4. It could be all 1 4s. But in fact what we have is a F sharp at the bottom. And that will work over every D7 chord. So you can do. So let me go through again, and I'll use those 3 licks, the flat third one, the chromatic descent, and the D7 chord. And finally, I want to show you the way that this tune ends on the Reinhardt Grappelli recording. And this is a good example of something that only gypsy jazz players will know, because Exactly Like You is a jazz standard and will be played by a lot of people who have no idea what gypsy jazz is. So if you do this ending with anyone who's not a gypsy jazz player, they will look at you with amazement and surprise because they'll have no idea what you're on about. But play it with gypsy jazz players, all the guitarists will know. Which is a unison section played at the end on the final A, and it goes into a kind of coda repeating the last 2 of that movement. So it's a C in third position, a D, fourth finger, a D sharp or E flat, and then an E. And it's the same rhythm each time. Da, 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 da. And it's good. It sounds good on the fiddle to do it with octaves. So I will do it again and I'll do that as the ending. Okay, I hope you found this useful and enjoyable. If you'd like to get hold of a PDF of this lesson, do subscribe to the channel and send me an email. If you like all my PDFs in one go, then do join me on Patreon. And I do have a Gypsy Jazz tune collection on Patreon, and that's just one of the many benefits you can get there. Thanks for watching. See you again soon.